No, they're putting a
They're gonna
remodel
redo.
big beer fridge in there.
Okay, which one?
It's the one by
Hey,
Canteen.
Jason,
Yes, sir.
what's the status of my land development code?
One, the new one?
No, the one I brought in, I brought you my old one with the,
Oh, that needs updating.
Okay, yes. Well,
I didn't bring mine in yet.
I have to check to see if we've got the update.
Should I turn mine on?
right, so we're going to call the meeting to order. It is 9:16. On attendance,
Safford.
Megan Heil.
And Hughes.
Karen Swanbeck.
Forrest Kritzer.
Forrest Kritzer, thank you. We got a few things, a little bit of housekeeping to do before we start the meeting, and we're going to move some things around because we've got some people who are stuck in some traffic and stuff of that sort. So we're going to go through the first part of the agenda, then we're going to open public hearing, and we're going to move the variance for Ostego Drive up to the top and get that down. So let's everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rise while we read the invocation. Heavenly Father, we ask that you bless us with your presence here today. Grant to us the wisdom to see all things in true perspective. Grant to us the patience to hear one another with open minds and hearts. Grant us the strength to meet all present challenges. May all that we do this day bring honor to you and credit to ourselves. Let's start with approval of the minutes. First item on the agenda. Any changes, edits, questions on the meeting minutes?
None.
I have none, no. I
have
thought
none.
they were very well drafted.
Or I just do have a question from it, and this comes from LPA member Stafford's question, the Kia Stera shops. Do we have an update on that?
They're in the code enforcement process. I think they're in the last code for that. I don't know if the lien was. Yeah, they are in.
Okay.
Towards the end of it, I guess I should.
I have no changes or edits. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting minutes are approved 5-0. So,
Oh, sorry, let's go ahead.
go ahead.
Just to say the request for the agenda.
Request for agenda change?
Right, the reorder.
Do I hear a motion to change the agenda?
So moved.
Second,
second,
moving the Ostego Drive up to the
Second.
the second item in our hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So moved. So we're going to open it up with a public, it's just easier for me to swear everybody in right now.
We don't need to for the legislative, but,
I'm going to wait till after legislative.
so the first item is a legislative item, not quasi-judicial.
It's listed under public hearing, that's why I was wondering. Okay. So we're going to open it up with the recommended approval, denial of proposed text amendments to the LDC Section 34-639 regarding permitting survey requirements. This is a town, so would you like to tell us what's going on?
Sure. Jason Green, Community Development. The proposed change to Section 34-639 and the other subsections. Essentially, the part of the code has a chart and some other language that talks about surveys that are required of applications. What we've done is, the last few years, as we've amended our process internally, primarily for building permitting purposes, that has flood regulations and evaluation. We do elevation certificates at different times throughout the process, back surveys that are done when the foundation gets done. Basically, this is amending to match the code to what our preferred process is. But ultimately, what it does is it provides for a topographic survey because we have stormwater requirements. So, topographic survey essentially provides the design engineers an opportunity to do it and sign off on it rather than the town doing specific inspections. So hopefully, this will expedite the end of the permitting process. Point because everybody wants to close on the house, get into the house, get the CO. We're hoping that this will just to make it smooth. Actually, what it does, it puts the burden on the design engineer and have those documents, sign off on it, tell us it's the way it was supposed to be.
This will actually streamline it.
We hope so. Yes, that's the goal. It's the conflict point that we've run into, but it cleans some other stuff up. But also mainly is just streamline the process.
Jason, would you try to speak up a little louder? I'm having
Yes, sir.
trouble hearing you.
In the 5 years that I've been on here, this is the second time this specific piece of code has come in front of us. And I do remember a large conversation about the value of a permitted less than 10,000. Now I'm seeing it struck through here on this too, which would be page 8. Okay, so why are we making that change here? Because I do remember there was conversation about that figure, that number. Is that causing issues? Is it causing?
Had no basis of part of our evaluation. And it's years old, so we don't know if that was, if you value that 10 changed. We don't necessarily evaluate that part. We don't ask the question of what the value of that shed is or the value of that is part of the permit process. So really wasn't a need for it. Plus it kind of exempted some things looking at.
Okay.
Confusion and conflict. If you
Okay.
look at fences, conflict points, which are always on the property line, really it tries to create, I guess, more evenly applicable regulation. Also gives some flexibility to administratively to waive some things that we've been doing that. People apply for certain surveys in certain circumstances. They have to. So the point of it is just to make it more even across the review process. Change.
Wouldn't that essentially slow some things down? Now we're asking for surveys for stuff that maybe we don't ask for that now.
Well, we couldn't figure out what the point to the value was because at the end of the day, the location is what the point to the survey is. So that's what matters, is encroachments, easements, things of that nature, that those are not encroached on. So that is really applicable regardless of the value.
Okay. Have something?
Well, on that very same section that you're referring to there, Megan, and the 10,000, the rest of that, it's not a good sentence the way it works. It says, fences clearly within a property line. Any errors are solely the responsibility of the owner. That I don't understand. I mean, that sentence doesn't make sense to me.
Without a survey, you'll never find that there's an error.
But
Which line are we talking about? I'm sorry.
Same line.
the wording of that,
C3.
Nobody else has a problem with that, I guess. Clearly within the it says clearly within the applicant's property boundary, and any errors are solely their responsibility.
Right. So it's not a. I think your point is it's a complete sentence.
No, it's not.
Because
It's a mix-up of two different
Because
issues.
it's a bullet point underneath a section. So these are the items, it's a list, right? These are the items that that can be waived. So look at C above it. And again, that's original term, that's the original text that's been in here. C is waiver survey requirements, and then this is qualified for that one. So I understand your point. I think that's why it was.
We have the sentence, the director has the discretion to review waiver requests under certain situations. Pretty much have a interpretation then. If you didn't want to do a survey on a $2,000 shed, you wouldn't have to anyways.
There are limited circumstances where I part, and again, each lot is different. Clear. Things are about 25, 30 feet from a property line. There's no way required for that.
That similar with the driveway type situation, out concrete and replaces it with pavers?
Well, that would not require necessarily a survey if you're surveys. And when I say the word survey, remember this area, this section covering more than just boundary. Graphic surveys, setback surveys. In that case,
Surveys.
topo
Right,
surveys,
with the one-
topographic surveys are important from when it comes to right of way because of the swale. So if you're replacing a culvert, where you set the bottom of that culvert and really important, right? That was a question asked. Replacing the surface,
So in a situation where somebody, is replacing a driveway, this change of wording, do you, and that will, financially it would cost to do that? Is there more requirements under this language than previous?
think it
or is
changes.
it all?
I would say it matches what we've been requiring. More, so to that point is, have we required more information? Problems and errors? Yes, that probably increased cost, but this change is reflecting what we've been. And again, part of it is
The
to
driveways will
protect.
still have the 2 different surveys no matter what, plus your storm water.
So when you do let's use a house as an example, just to kind of go through this entire table if you want, that's the chart 1. You always obviously do a boundary survey, show what your property is, your topographical survey, to establish your existing conditions. Then if you're doing a design for stormwater on site, that's going to be based on that. The pre-construction with the survey, and then the design of the storm post. Then through construction, we have the foundation and the setback survey. Show that they've met the setbacks. Whether or not there are errors.
So my big question here, and I'm going to pause you right there, is on the room addition, that's the one thing, is the foundation side set. I don't remember why we didn't require one for there.
We always have. The only thing
It's
that
not required in our code.
right. So the foundation. Well, let's go through that column just to change basically the terminology at the top of that column simply to kind of clarify it. If you look under new construction, that was always required, that X. Well, I think to your point, should there be an X in the addition? It's not there before, but
Because
point.
I believe we strengthen or reduce the amount of air that we allow in as built. Wouldn't, if we did one there, catch air earlier if we caught it at the foundation level?
We can add the X in that box because it's similar to new construction.
Because if we're saying that, less than, I don't even remember what we changed it to, was 2 inches of air, whatever, on a as-built. This would, because there are still ground level houses.
Well, and remember, the point to that is that whole point to the survey is to do it early in the process before. We want to have a process that errors can be caught before too much. It's gone too far. I don't want people back in here getting a variance from you, built house, and then that chip is, well, we want to catch it early, help them catch it early. Yes, to add an X under room.
Everybody good with that?
Then
X
below
there.
that again is the swimming pool and other impervious surfaces. Knowing that, it's critical to add that part of it to it. Again, swimming pools have a tendency to have high error rates. Swimming pools have a tendency to have high error rates with setbacks, and so we wanted to make sure that that was added in.
Okay.
And then we have the structure as-built survey. Again, that's kind of a finished design type thing. Evaluate elevation, that's a flood issue and also a height issue. Elevation certificates that deal with the finished floor, making sure that's a height. But we also require, well, the code requires basically a survey to show that the height of the building standards during construction. And then the added column to kind of separate it out is the topographic and as-built survey. And again, because of the town's stormwater requirements for on-site for construction, the problem we're running into is having inspections done by, say, untrained staff related to stormwater. And then you have that frustration point that I talked about earlier where the conflict of everybody wants to close and get done and they're waiting approvals. And frankly, we have a bunch of errors on the construction side. So this will do is put it back on the homeowner. They can schedule the survey. The surveyor can give that information as built to an engineer. The engineer reviews it and signs off on it as this is built by design. That letter and they're
You're essentially taking the last survey out of the equation there by allowing them to sign off on their own design build, saying that the designer, yes, he built it to my design specs.
so the engineer. So this process is very similar to what any other site for development would have to do through the water management district. The design engineer has to sign off and say this was built to my design, function and work, operate the way I intended it to operate. Any other site you do that for commercial or normal bigger sites than a single family. This is taking a page out of that process. Since we have here locally single family site stormwater requirements, taking a page out of that process to make it, it's a process that all the engineers and. But yes, to your point, it's an as-built survey. The engineer look at it and say, yep, that matches close enough, function, and fund it.
Oh, I just
What's
don't like
happening
that
right
word
now?
close enough.
Oh, because a tenth of a foot at the bottom of the pond is not going to make up to the engineer to make. What we have right now is planning or public, if we have public works staff available or building going out and eyeballing it, so to speak, and a good process. This will make it very technical and off on its service.
Nobody's going behind a check.
We have the as-built on record, so I mean, I'm not going to go out and measure the slope. Is it 3 to 1 or is it 3.5 to 1? We're not set up to be able to do that. The alternative to that is the town taking on that responsibility, continue that, but then if experts have to bring in, it's staff, there's more cost for the inspection services. That's what we're trying to.
Any comments? Anything?
Don't think.
No, I'm happy it's going to reduce
I have
cost and
another
time.
one.
I do too, that's why I just wanted to check before we,
Okay.
go ahead.
Well, on 34, 639B, on page 8, the underlined addition of other impervious surfaces. Again, to me, I'm having trouble with the verbiage there. Why not simply say other, what is it? You're enumerating types permits requiring survey and say addition of other, why not just say other and other impervious surfaces? I don't understand addition of others. What do you mean by addition of others?
That change. Can make that change.
Yeah, okay, just other and other. Change addition to and. That's my big major contribution to that.
Well, I was just, I believe that, we have one group in here now, another group comes in and has different interpretations of our codes every time we get. So I'm looking at this and going, substantial compliance.
No.
It's broad, too round, too, your definition of substantial compliance means you're within what? A couple percent of what was designed? Is it minor changes? What's a minor change that we're talking about here? I mean, you do know that there are people that you give them an inch, they take a mile. And so what's substantial?
That is why the professional engineer has their license, and they're going to sign off on that it complies. They obviously want it to function. And so I can check on that terminology, but it's actually the design engineer has to sign off on it and say that.
I had some concerns on that too. And I was wondering, Jason, is that language, is there a standard in the engineering industry defining, I mean, did that language come from engineering terminology that's customary usage?
Some of that language that you see there came from basically documents that the Water Management District used. Can go back and verify the science. At the end of the day, whether you change that word, take it out, delete it, leave it in there, the point of it is the rest of it, which is an engineer has to verify and send us a letter that says it's done.
And I get that. I'm looking at this going, substantial changes, inconsequential changes, minor changes, but what my definition of it is and what Scott's may be or Karen's may be is very different, and it's way open for interpretation.
So it is, but we were trying to avoid us interpreting. So B1 basically says that term means it's up to the engineer.
Be subjective regardless of how you end up defining it.
So the only problem, I guess, to your point, if the design engineer signs off on something, it's close enough, something bad happens as a result of that, they're liable. Their license is on the line. Can be sued, challenged about that process. It's us out of liability is what the. So really the substantial compliance is defined by this is if that design engineer determines as being acceptable to us. I don't want to get in arguments with any design or the end process when we're not equipped to do that. What I say. The alternative was get very, very technical behind all of those components. And if that is better, we can explore.
You guys think?
I kind of agree with Jason. I'd rather take it out of the town's hands because they have the engineers sign off on it.
I would go with the recommendation from staff.
I'll-
Leave it.
I understand your concerns. And
Yeah, we've tightened some things down because we have had people an inch and taken a mile. At that point in time, our hands are tied because they come in front of us and say, it's built, what do you want me to do about it? Now you gotta forgive me. And so I just, minimizing that bit of it where, our hands are tied and we're the bad guys because you decided to build something that was out of spec.
And part of the issue with that process is that town signs off on something not exactly correct, put ourselves into that liability component.
Okay.
It's not being set up to do that because we don't have other engineers have to be able to go out and do that, or that's a very costly expense to have an engineer following up behind another engineer. Leave it in their hands to decide as the design engineer. And same process that you do for a 2-acre commercial site anywhere, basically, get paid from that book.
Right, I'm okay going with it, and if it needs to be changed, we'll change it, because, even this is the second time it's been in front of, at least I've seen it.
It's a little bit different, but yeah, it's a extended version of what we talked
Okay. All right, do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the staff's recommendation.
Second? All in favor, say
Yes, for clarity, and that's including the amendments suggested,
the
the
changes plus
table and the
the
text. Okay.
addition of the room addition and the foundation setback survey. You want to amend your,
And stairs, okay. That's clarification, that's what the
our discussion.
Thank you.
Have a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Do we need on him?
I will check.
Check on him real quick, or we're gonna keep rolling. Take a quick pause while he checks, find out where the town attorney is, and also Kelly made it. Take a quick 5-minute recess. Okay, never mind.
Passing by public, so.
All right, so let's do this. Let's take a quick 5-minute recess. Give him a chance to get here, settle in. He can swear everyone in. We can move forward, and this is an official process. We'll be back at 9:45. somebody
hi
else
for
at a
me.
high rate of speed down a center.
Yeah, I
lane,
got
'cause that
35.
never-
Red Coconut or the President Streets from there to probably Publix. It's
Sorry for a second, because I'm going to be using you. All right.
how's Alligator Alley?
Someone else had a very unfortunate day.
All right, it is 9:48. Apologize for the delay, and we are back in session. We're going to start on with the rest of our legislative agenda here, our public hearing agenda, and we're going to open up the public hearing. I'm going to swear everybody in right now. Do it on a bit-by-bit basis. Okay, so we're going to open the public hearings. If you are here to testify or witness in any of this, you could please rise while our attorney swears you in. You're going to speak.
You swear to swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Witnesses have been sworn.
Thank you. We're going to open up the public hearing on variance 2020069, 253 Otsego LC Street setback variance. I'm going to call for ex parte communications. Do you,
I've been at site.
Aaron?
None.
None.
Site visit, and I spoke with the applicant on the phone.
Okay. Ex parte communications has been closed, so let's open this up. Wait a second to get back in the groove here. Staff presents the affidavit of publication.
Yes.
Yes.
It's been
The matter is properly before you.
Present its case. Anyone here to speak for the applicant? Right there, center.
Okay.
State your name for the record, too.
Peter Albert. owner of the
Take
property.
that off.
Oh, thanks. Peter Albert, the owner of the property.
Anything you'd like to provide for request for your side setbacks?
No, I think in the application, I kind of set the reasons why for the application. With the Otsego being a unique property, basically having a street on one side and the other side. So really you have two front yards, two backyards. This particular area on that street is the only logical place to put it with that we can have those setbacks. And again, everybody on the street earlier had a administrative variance. I'm going through that straight process, but again, it will improve the property value and along the same lines with that same street with all the other pools that are there.
Okay. Brown?
County hasn't been sworn in. Tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
It like that, and I can slides. Kelly Butara, Community Development Services, case EAR 2020-0069.
Hard to read.
Right. It's a setback variance for an accessory structure from.
Excuse me a minute. I can't see that from here.
Let's get that way, let's get this way.
Yeah,
That way.
All on my way.
Oh. Turn, we'll be okay.
All right.
Think of that.
I thought it was.
I'm gonna be 6 feet away.
In the packet, it's the last, I think it's the last one, isn't it?
5.5.
Turn on the other TV for us too. This starts on page 211 for anybody in the pack.
It's okay, I can see. This,
Okay.
Now I'm moving.
Let me see it on this side. All right, moving along.
So the request is, applicant is seeking a relief from 25 feet front setback for an accessory structure, a pool. Location of the property is 253 Ostigo Drive. Currently, the structure is a duplex and underlays residential conservation and mixed residential conservation zoning district and mixed residential future land. As you can see on the screen, the parcel is a through lot and it has 2 street frontage on Carolina Avenue and Ostigo Drive. Currently, the applicant driveway is on the Carolina Avenue and the Ostigo Drive is not used as a driveway. So there is a very little space in the side yard to put a pool. So the applicant is requesting a pool in the backyard, which will be 5 feet from the rear property line and 15 feet from the edge of the pavement. Okay, the findings are the structure is existing since 1985. This situation is not actions of the applicant. It's a thorough lot and it's common for the many lots on the island. And especially a few of the lots adjacent along Ostigo Drive has received administrative variance in the past. Again, this is a very unique situation for through lots on the island. Staff finds that the proposal with the town's land development code and comprehensive plan, and staff recommends approval with condition for the variance to be for the pool to be located closer to the street right of way than the principal structure. And this approval does not exempt the subject property from provisions of the other LDC requirement and flood regulations. And at today's hearing, the requested motion from you is to approve or approve with condition or deny the variance of the accessory structure to be closer than 5 feet, 25 feet from the street right of way. And if you have any question, the applicant is an attendee.
what are the conditions? I want to make sure that you're okay with the conditions.
One of the conditions asks them to be compliant with the other LDC regulations and flood regulations. Another one is to comply with the provided drainage plan or provided survey. And another one is for the landscape so that the visual will be obstructed from the right of way. And, so no one can see through and to the pool and if people are enjoying. And the applicant will also have to make sure that the visibility triangle is not obstructed for the vehicle that are coming onto the Ostigo Drive. So the properties on the opposite side of this property, the subject property have driveways on Ostigo Drive. The visibility triangle shall not be obstructed due to the vegetation or the landscaping buffer.
So page 217 is all the conditions too as well.
Yeah.
You good with those conditions?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
If I got this right, we have a house that has two frontage, more or less, which isn't uncommon around here. Want to put a pool in and need relief for the pool.
They essentially don't have a rear yard,
Yeah.
so.
Unique property.
Have any questions for either the town or the applicant? Pretty straightforward. We've done this for multiple corner lots like this. Need to keep the triangle so that you can still see around the house. Be able to pull out. And this landscape buffer, any details on that? I mean, are there any details that you've provided as a condition in this?
I will be using the same type of shrubs as everybody else is used on the same. They grow enough so it doesn't grow too high, but it's enough that it will, get a buffer around the pool. Because we'll be using a aluminum fence. Again, if you look at everybody else on the same street, they have the same type of bushes, so.
You'll be using not a solid fence, but the picket like.
Correct, yeah,
like other
but
ones
the
are next to
shrubberies,
you.
it gives it enough where you do see through a little bit, but again, it's plenty enough that, of view.
I, for one, seen the property. They've done an excellent job on remodeling, and it
Thank you.
really added to both streets actually benefit from it, from the appearance of the area.
No other issues with the property? Enforcement, nothing of that sort, no other issues? Questions?
I don't have any questions. I think that, I think this application meets the conditions, findings necessary to grant a variance. But I just wondering how it historically developed, that which street is the backyard and which street is, and did those other properties on Estego that are all treating that as the backyard, they get variances, or that just happened historically, it just developed that way? And
Yeah, I believe what was stated before was there was administrative variances that have been granted, obviously taking a different approach the last few years to that.
as I understand it,
238.
Mr. Albert, everybody on that street, they're all backyards on that one side of this.
They've all become backyard. No,
Nobody's got
there's
a
a
front
couple
yard
that
on
are
that.
front yards, but
Yeah.
it's basically where the house is
238.
positioned on the lot. you know.
Aerial view on 238 for,
Right.
It appears that's been
I
a self-regulated
understand, but I'm just
thing.
wondering how somebody had to decide which was going to be the front yard.
It's where the home was positioned on the lot.
it'd be worse, it could be further down and you have 3 front yards.
Yeah, that's right.
2 of these houses have 3 front yards. Okay, any other questions of the applicant or the town? Scott?
No.
Are we at a point where we feel comfortable making a motion?
I will
Look,
Any public comment? Closing public comment. Now we can move on with the motion.
I move approval of the variance 2020-00069, finding that it meets findings and conclusions as set forth on page 215 of the staff report, and subject to the conditions of approval set forth on page 217.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion, variance carries 5-0.
Thank you very much, Council.
Welcome. Have a great day. Okay, do we want to move back up to the top of our agenda?
actually, the only one that hasn't moved is item number 3, and that would be the IBIS.
We have people here for IBIS.
Yes.
Okay, then let's run IBIS, and then we can do the town business after that. All right, so I'm going to open the hearing for motion to vacate portion of IBIS Street, AC 202-00053, approving conditions or deny vacating a portion of the plat identified as IBIS Street R/W, located generally between 281 IBIS Street and 290 IBIS Street. Any ex parte communications on this? Oh, no. Dan? I'm a no?
No.
No. Take communications has been closed. Moving along, hi.
Hi, good morning. For the record, my name is Beverly Grady with Russell and Andrews. I'm representing Tim and Teresa Carson. And I do have the notice that we published, and Kelly had asked me to bring it, and she does not absolutely require, but since I have it, if I could just hand out the notice and the letters that we have sent to the property owners. I have it turned to a certain page. Okay, so this is requesting a vacation of a right-of-way. It's been depicted in the staff report. We've sent written notification to the surrounding property owners, which was mailed on September 2nd. You have a copy there. We've published the notice of hearing in the news press. It was published September 3rd, and then published again today, which is actually required for the council meeting. So I've given you a copy of that notice, and I've turned to a certain page because I wanted to color code, because they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, so this will shorten my presentation. We are requesting a vacation of what we call a remnant parcel. I've attached a copy of the plat, and as I said, I've color coded it. We're looking at Ibis Street. In 1952, the Board of County Commissioners vacated the end or terminus of Ibis Street, the last 135 feet. I've marked that in pink. That was vacated in 1952. Clerk to the Board of County Commissioners, who also maintains all recorded documents, put a notation on the plat referencing that vacation by the Board of County Commissioners. After the formation of the town of Fort Myers Beach, there was a second vacation. In 2000, the town council, by resolution 0023, vacated 1/2 of the right-of-way of Ibis. That's in orange. So that parcel is now part of our neighbor, 290 Ibis. It serves as a driveway, and it's recorded in the official record books of Lee County. That brings us to the yellow, the remnant. Today's request is for vacating that remaining 1/2 of right-of-way, abutting the 2000 right-of-way by town council. This remnant is 25 feet in width, serves no public purpose nor use. The remnant provides no access except to the Carsons at 281 Ibis. The approval of this request will not adversely affect the ownership or rights of persons owning lands on Ibis. Approval of the request will not adversely affect infrastructure and is not in conflict with the town, county, or state plans regarding road rights-of-way, drainage, or utility plans. There's a cul-de-sac on Ibis. It will continue to function and serve the Sandpiper Village subdivision units 1 and 2. The file also contains a letter of no objection by the neighbor to this property, 290 Ibis. This remnant will continue to serve as a driveway to 281 Ibis. We have a full recommendation of staff support, and we would request that you recommend the vacation of this remnant to town council.
Good morning, Kelly Butara with Planning Services. Case number VAC 2020-0053, vacating right-of-way of IB Street. Applicant has requested vacation of right-of-way of IB Street, which is located at the end of the IB Street, as shown on Exhibit A, which is page number 101 of the agenda packet. This request is made by the owner of 281 IB Street, which this parcel is located directly adjacent to the right-of-way portion, which is being requested to vacate. The location of the right-of-way is at the end of the street, which is currently owned by Town of Fort Myers Beach. In this slide, you can see the portion of the right-of-way which is being requested to be vacated. This slide shows the relation with the right-of-way and the proposed and the adjacent property, which is 281 IB Street. This is an approximate drawing. It is not to the scale. And as you can see, the portion behind and adjacent to this right-of-way is being vacated in 1932, and applicant is requesting the highlighted portion to be vacated. And currently, the portion, this right-of-way is not used for any public purposes. It will not impact the current and the future use for the public purposes. And the findings are this house on 281 IB Street is existing since 1962, and it is encroaching into the right-of-way. As you can see on this slide, it's not much. It's about half a feet. It's encroaching into the right-of-way at this time, but it is not created by the applicant. It's not created by the applicant. It's existing since 1962. And again, this vacation will not impact the adjacent properties, neither the right-of-way nor the driveway. And again, it will not impact the accessibility of the emergency vehicle. And staff recommends approval of this request and request you to make a motion on approve with condition or deny this request to vacate the right-of-way of IB Street. I want to add one thing into this. We recently had a discussion with the utility department, and the utility department wants to have a 10-feet utility easement within this right-of-way. So that condition is been not added to the staff report because this discussion happened later in the process.
Does the applicant know about this?
No. It was given yesterday, so we didn't have a time to discuss with the utility department.
Does the applicant need time on this one?
I didn't really understand I didn't understand what they.
We want to reserve a utility easement just in case, for future utility needs for public purpose,
Where?
purposes. Within the front edge of the vacated right-of-way.
Frontage.
10 feet along.
10 feet from, is this,
I would say it's 10 feet from the edge of the cul-de-sac back, so along the 10 feet wide along the edge of the edge of the part that's being requested. The neighbor's property, that property line, 10 feet in.
I'm going to ask you to, I can't speak to it. I understand they're making it. You're going to make your decision. I certainly have to tell the owners of the property that there's something new, which I will. So I think that, I can't agree to something when I haven't even told the owner that there's an easement, but I don't quite understand. So you're taking the curve and putting a 10-foot easement? You can't expect us to agree when we don't know where it is.
I guess the other question is, with this new information, do you want to, can you move forward, or do you want to?
We want to, I know we want to, and I appreciate staff getting this scheduled. This has been worked on for many months, and it's very difficult at this time frame. So I do believe my client wants to get in front of the council. So we'll.
We're at the question section anyways. Why are we here? Did something come up that this piece of land needs to be used for? Is there a specific reason why, since 1962, this hasn't been issued till today? Can we have a little bit more explanation as to why we're sitting here talking about and vacating a piece of property that's been fine since 1962? There's even a driveway partially on it. So what's going on? I guess is my question.
If you look at that drawing, and if you look at the aerial that was in the staff packet, this is a 25-foot intrusion in between the two lots. So the neighbor, as well as my client, both want this vacated. It's my understanding from my client that in 2000, when that property owner requested the vacation, they approached that neighbor at that time, the owner of 281, but they just didn't want to participate. But We don't want a public right-of-way, 25 feet that, say, people can walk onto, which is really between two private lots. The cul-de-sac is there, it's not being touched, it's only been used as a driveway. It serves no public purpose to the town, as stated in the staff report, and it's really finishing something that had that property owner joined in 2000, without a doubt, it would have been vacated. But they didn't join in, so they only vacated the half on the neighbor's side. So, and we have full staff recommendation. We fully qualify with the town's ordinance for the vacation.
So I think part of that also is, I believe there's a permit in process, or there was a discussion of a permit for fence and some other things that kind of generated some of this. And to go back to the easement part of it, the 10-foot easement, hard to see on the survey, but the lower right corner along the blue line that follows the, adjacent to the part that's been vacated in the past, that goes from the cul-de-sac back, there is a water main and some gas thing going up on that survey. 10-foot easement would be from the eastern portion in, and be
We
about
have
10 feet
utilities there
wide.
already.
It appears by the survey that
We would be certainly glad to work with the town to the extent anything is a water line that's responsibility of the town, that we would have no objection to granting an easement for the town.
It would be, the area that's being vacated is 25 feet wide and to the center line. And so from the center line back 10 feet, we would want an easement along there because that's where the lines appear to run.
A town or FPL?
Well, at least the water line is town. There may be some other utilities within there as well.
Let me respond to that. We got letters from all the Public Works and all the utilities, other than where the water main is shown. We have letters from everyone that there are no utilities.
Page
We
110
worked
is
very
from
hard with
FPL.
CenturyLink to make sure we didn't include it.
the only thing that looks like on the survey is gas and water.
Well, the town is asking for an easement limited to the water line?
Limited to the 10 feet from the
Well, yeah,
edge of the
For
property.
utilities.
For public utilities.
Public utilities, would that include overhead wiring?
There are none there. It would be down the middle of the
Well, there
street.
aren't any now, but,
Be down,
I'm
to John's point, it's down the middle of the street if they were to put anything in there.
okay.
Although vacated, it's still a end of the cul-de-sac, so it would be in the middle of the,
It's outside the cul-de-sac.
I'm sorry.
The
Well,
easement should be limited to the,
I apologize.
The
to
current
the other end,
utilities
but
that are there.
yes. I don't have any problem as long as the existing infrastructure in the, at this time.
This came up because there's a fence permit in the works too. That's what I was trying to get at. Something brought this up. I just wanted to know what brought this up.
The original vacation was 2003?
Well, the original for the end of the street was in the
County, no, county.
1950s.
I'm at the town, but
Yeah, the town vacation was in 2000. Yes,
2000?
yes.
I was mayor at the time.
See, I've got it. Yes.
There's an incompetent town administration there. It didn't handle that right, I guess.
Yes, it was unanimous approval, including Mayor Dan Hughes, yes.
Madam Chairman. All right. You have any more questions?
No.
And do you have any questions?
I have one, just, and it's probably because I'm new, okay, but if we vacate that property, they're asking for ownership of that property.
Ownership of it and
Right,
responsibility for it.
so that increases their property value.
Yes, it does.
Okay, and and I'm like you, a light bulb went off. The whole reason is for this fence. I wonder, and I didn't see if that, that might not be a part of this motion either. Okay, my question is the neighbor know about this fence that they're wanting to put up by vacating that property?
Yes, so the staff report did not include it in your packet, but we have a letter of no objection from that neighbor. That neighbor got the same vacation, and they actually want this vacated. They don't want people, just strangers, walking up
Are
that are next to the
strangers doing
property.
Oh, yeah.
Doing that, walking up on this property? couldn't tell you what we own and what we don't own. I just try to stay off of people's property.
Well, but the point is, if they do,
Keep doing it, yeah.
right, because it's not posted.
Go ahead.
So
have
are
another
you
one?
okay with this easement?
I'm good.
Yes, I'm okay with the easement that's described by LPA member Hughes, yes. For existing infrastructure, yes.
I want to make it clear that it's the existing and the ability to replace that existing infrastructure in the future.
That's fine.
Not like that it's
Yeah.
limited to, you know,
Well, why don't we just we give the easement to the town for
Utility
water.
purposes.
For utility purposes for water and gas that's already
Well,
currently there.
keep in mind that the town provides water service, and although there are distance separation requirements that I don't know if necessarily come into play, but it is foreseeable that we would also potentially maybe put stormwater infrastructure in there as well, because we are in the process of building, and I'm not saying that it's going to go there. I'm saying that it's, you know, we want it for utility purposes. And the motion as being proposed would limit staff's ability to use it for just the water line.
Okay. I'm not, if for stormwater, we need it for storm, but I don't think that FPL, Comcast, everyone has said they don't have an objection to this, so I don't think we need to add them into this.
No, we're
Keep
just,
it to limit, we could limit its scope of easement to
town utility purposes.
Town-provided utilities.
I don't know, and I don't know who provides the gas, though. A private provider. Did you get Beverly, did you get something from the,
We got a letter from everyone that was on the list in the ordinance.
Would the easement as proposed extend beyond the subject property? Is there an easement that comes up to where your easement is proposed?
I'm going to make, and I'm going to clarify, and I'm going to make it very clear, I'm making an assumption that there is, since we obviously have a water line that, in order to be able to get to this point at the end of the road, certainly has to have come down that road.
I don't think that's what he's asking. I think is there easement on that vacated property going toward the bay?
There's nothing past that point.
Nothing past that point.
Or the other way? I don't
Other
want
way's
to
the
create an
street.
easement that just begins and ends on
So,
their
so
property.
the proposed easement ties into the street right
Gotta
away.
go
So,
somewhere.
Yeah, we have the title to the street above this.
Right.
We would have the right to put anything within that right of way that we own.
Well, that's correct, that's true, yes.
everything on that curve, that's going to the bottom left of the right of way that the town. So the easement ties into that.
Yeah,
It's
it
an
would,
extension.
it would go into public right away.
It's an extension of the
Okay.
public right of way.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, as long as the easement connects to the public right away. As the attorney pointed out, they can put an easement, it's not a bridge to nowhere.
Do you have any additional questions?
No.
Horst, do you?
No.
Aaron? Aaron? Additional questions of town or the applicant?
No, I do not have.
Okay. Anybody here for public comment? Open up the public comment portion of this. Thank you. All right, closing the public comment on this. All right, do I hear a motion? Are we ready for a motion? Ready.
Ready?
Do I hear a motion on this one? Stand up, all right, I'll do it.
I will move approval of recommending vacating a portion of Ibis Street as set forth in the application here. Condition.
We do on page 80, plus the
on
third, plus the
page,
other one, the easement.
Subject to the conditions of approval set forth, page 80 and 81 of our packet, and subject to an easement,
But wide.
a 10-foot wide easement limited to,
Town utility uses and the existing
on
gas line.
utilities, which at this point are water and stormwater.
Yes.
The
And we also
existing
have to add
gas
an existing gas line.
We don't know.
I've got a question. If condition one is the applicant is responsible for reimbursing the town, completing, removal, et cetera, if we're given the easement, does that need to be in there?
That was standard language from previous vacates if something needs to be removed. Specifically to this, in this case that we're talking about, probably no. But it was standard language that we've been using for vacates. So when you vacate it, if the town had utilities in it that were going to be relocated, it's responsibility of the person vacating.
What do you want?
In this case, we're not, obviously, we're talking about not getting utilities, but that was.
You strike condition one because we added the easement.
I would think so. I think you'd strike.
Correct.
Seems,
We will agree to recommend the removal of the first condition.
Beverly, you're okay with that, obviously?
Yes, that's better, yes.
All right, that first condition on bottom of page 80 is, I still amend my motion.
Remove condition one, add a 10-foot easement for limited to public to town utilities plus private gas utility,
Yeah, gas line.
gas line.
Second.
Stafford's seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. You're welcome. Have a great day. How do we want to go back up to the top and do 74?
We'll do, 74 and 72.
Okay. All right, now open the public hearing for VAC 2000074, vacation portions of School Street right-of-way. School Street and Bay Road. I don't think both say the same thing.
Jason Green, Community Development. I'll just present both of these together, but we need two separate motions. As you mentioned, there's portions of, these are request to vacate portions of the Winkler subdivision plat, and as you mentioned, and, right, that's the name. Request is being submitted actually by the town to vacate property on there. We have with us today representatives from school board and county. They're all part of this benefit from that. They have property on both sides of their portions. It is based on the analysis required by the land development codes to find that and facts be established. It will not adversely affect ownership or rights of other owners, nor access of those test, but that was part of it. Vacation will not adversely affect infrastructure and does not conflict with town, county, or state plans regarding road right-of-way. Not. And so, based on the findings of and the application, both of these meet criteria for vacating. Consolidate some land and make it easy. Purpose.
We're vacating it and giving it to who?
So,
It wasn't quite clear.
so the land, the property owners on either side of the right-of-way vacate will property when it vacates, which is school and Lee County. And as part of that, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a land swap.
There's going to be this is part of the land swap to consolidate the parcels that compromise or are part of Bay Oak. And in anticipation of the redevelopment project that's been discussed and going through the vetting process. And so with regard to the portion of the application for the vacating of the right of way on the school street, the school the elementary school actually is using that as a parking lot, or a portion of it as their parking lot. And so they would like to take title to that by us vacating the right of way. In exchange, they're going to deed us some adjacent parcels that will then be consolidated with the Bay Oaks parcels that we already own to make the park larger and to accommodate the expansion and redevelopment that's being proposed. The same thing with respect to the vacating of the right-of-way in favor of Lee County, again, in exchange for vacating that right-of-way and giving it to Lee County, which will allow them to expand the preserve area. They're deeding to the town to corner parcels that will allow us to square off the Bay Oaks parcel that we own in that area as well, for future expansion.
Was in the works, it's signed,
Yes, there's already an
looks like it was.
interlocal agreement that with the county and one with the school board that the town council has already approved. I don't know when both of them are scheduled to go before their respective boards, the school board and the county, I believe on the 21st.
Also be intimate with the dates. It's eminent.
We have come to terms with, that's why we're now bringing it.
That's where we were before we agreed to give away property on this. I know, because it's at times Bay Oaks and that property back there has been in controversy as to what's going to happen with it, who's going to do what with it, is it sticking around, is it going, I mean, it's 6 years of this.
This is the long-term solution to implement the expansion redevelopment of Bay Oaks campus to include these two, actually 3 parcels, 2 that we're getting from the county and I believe that 1 that we're getting from the school board.
All right, so what did we just get here?
2 from each.
All right, so this is an outline of the properties in play here.
Okay.
Okay, so just starting sort of with the top
Been
left.
identified for the record.
I'm Roger Hernstedt, town manager, thank you. Starting with the top left is the property that the town currently owns as a result of acquiring the Bay Oaks recreational campus from the county several years ago. To the right of that sort of area, we then get into property that's owned by the school board and Lee County. So the center of top center, you'll see what looks like a little bow tie in gold. That's properties owned by the county, and then just to the right of that, you see what looks like a paw gold. That's county property. Then, of course, the teal property is a school board property. So what we're trying to do, and this has been tried several times before unsuccessfully, is to get the property that's currently being used for the most part for Bay Oaks campus under the control of the town. There was an interlocal drafted many years ago that was never executed. There was an effort about 3 years ago to try to do this process, and it unfortunately never made its way all the way through fruition. Most of you know the town has been looking at redevelopment projects in 3 of the town's assets: Times Square, Bayside Parks, and Bay Oaks. Clearly, we can't, at Bay Oaks, we're talking about investing $5.5 million. We can't invest $5.5 million onto property if we don't own, just doesn't make sense. So with the cooperation of the school board and their staff, Lee County Commission and the county manager and their parks director, we've been able to to arrange for what's essence of a property swap. Only difference is we're not giving them real property for property they're giving us. They're in essence, we're giving them right away and they're giving us property. That's just by virtue of how the plat was drawn when it was originally conceived. Frankly, this should have been taken care of when the town incorporated. For whatever reason, it didn't get taken care of at that point in time. Well, here we are, and we're very fortunate that we have partners who are willing to cooperate and see the greater good of having a first-class community asset, not only for people of Fort Myers Beach, but for the children who attend Beach Elementary School who live off island, people who visit our island, from the rest of Lee County as well as other counties, in fact, other countries. So this is a very, very significant effort with respect to what's happening. So what we're giving up is, we're giving up basically the right-of-way that Lee County School is already using for parking. We're giving up the right-of-way adjacent to the Matanzas Park Reserve, which is basically mostly mangroves for all intents and purposes. But it gives them a little room. Again, I want to compliment both entities. This was not about, we give you 5 square feet, you give us 5 square feet. It was about what was needed to do the right thing for all parties concerned. And frankly, the town, in terms, if you were to measure this on who got the most square footage, the town's the winner by a lot. This is what we've given up.
We're gonna get these purple sections too, is that what if I see?
Yes, we're getting control of those.
There's 3 gold sections.
And of course, we own the rest of the right-of-way. So, yeah, so we're giving up the right-of-way. It's sort of that inverted L-shaped thing at the top right-hand corner to Lee County. And we're giving up the area where the parking lot is that the school currently uses.
Parking lot 72? Other order? Okay, so just so we're clear, we're looking right now at this corner lot up here. He's talking about both pieces.
I am, just so you understand. So the whole idea is, as you can see, is in the entire area other than Matanzas Park Reserve and the parking lot area be used for the community park. Portions of it, because the school board has to maintain access control around their property. They're required by state statute to do that. So there'll be a boundary between the property while the school's in session, but once school is out of session, we'll be able to pass through those barriers, just like it is today. So those of you who heard about the fact that we have this park facility on property that we don't control, perhaps at least 2 efforts to try to get this accomplished in the past that have never been able to be pulled off. We finally have a proposal that meets all the needs of all 3 entities. Everyone involved should be complimented for their willingness to work hard and get this done. So this action is needed now because in the budget, and in the budget includes the money to begin the improvement of Bay Oaks as well as the other 2 projects. And we'll be borrowing that money. And of course, we don't want money to be sitting there unused because we'll be paying interest on it. If you have any questions, we'll try to answer them.
One.
Okay, go for it.
Thank you. Forrest Ritz. And it was mentioned about the Matanzas Pass in that area in the back, and then someone said something about the not being available in certain hours. Now, that street is still going to, regardless of what happens here, that's still going to be open to go back to the pass for visitors and everybody to go to at any time like it is now. Nothing's changing.
That's correct.
Okay.
It's the county's desire to be able to utilize that area to make it more accessible and draw more people to the preserve is part of their thinking in terms of the property that they asked for.
Thank you.
I do have a question, if I may. Are we going to be able to, with this land swap and everything, are we going to be able to move that house?
Red house.
That's frankly totally independent issue of all of this, whether that cottage really won't be moved on to the Matanzas
Red
Preserve
Roof
property
Red Roof property, is
is
that what
up to, it's an issue with the county and a person who owns the cottage. It's not really an issue of the town anymore, other than, I think generally speaking, we would like to preserve the history if possible.
Will there be room for any more properties if we're able to move that over there?
Well, I'll have Jesse kind of lay out what his plans are for the preserves. I don't want to speak for him.
All right.
Quite frankly, Jesse Lavender, Parks and Rec Director for Lee County. I haven't heard anything about the cottage in probably a year, so not sure where the cottage currently is, but I'm just telling you, I have not received any formal request or updates on the cottage in about a year.
Really?
There's another effort to try and move it to another property.
Last I had heard, there was a private parcel that the opportunity for the college to be cottage to be located on. But this land swap and what we are all doing maintains the current lease with Arrow Island Historic Society.
Okay, so that's going to remain in effect.
That's going to remain under the county's ownership.
I'd like to explore a little bit the condition of approval on page 14. This is a complex project, and there's a number of things that have to be done, and there's by both the school board and the county as well as us. So it's whatever we recommend, it would be a contingent upon those other things being approved, right? And I'd like to know what you could clarify for me on the condition of approval. All projects shall be completed. How do you define projects? What projects has to be completed within the time frame?
Okay, so your question, I'm hearing two questions within your questions. One question is, perhaps the most pertinent question is, when you have a situation like this with three governmental entities, you sort of get into a chicken and the egg thing. Like, someone's got to move first for the other folks to move.
I understand.
So, so we're moving first. Now, the school board in particular said that, look, we're going to give you a fairly large piece of property here. We want to make sure that improvements that are part of the town's plans to redevelop Bay Oaks don't fall off the table at some point. We ran out of money, we ran out of interest, whatever, and we never see sort of the scheduled improvements sort of on our half of or what was our half of the property. So they've seen our concept plan, they've approved our concept plan in terms of the amenities that it proposes, as has BORCAB, as has the town council. And all they're saying is, we don't want to be so far down the project timeline that the town run out of money or have a change of heart, we don't get improvements closer to the school. So what we've committed is a timeline to do that part of our project in the first phase, and frankly, we have to do it in the first phase anyway, so it wasn't really, we gave up anything to do that, but they wanted to be reassured that we were going to do those improvements early in the process and they wouldn't fall off the table.
Okay. I understand it. It just was wondering, all projects to be completed within a time frame. That's pretty extensive.
Well, I think where our goal is to have all the improvements done in 3 years on, frankly, all 3 projects, because we don't want the money sitting there. We're being charged interest while it's sitting there, waiting for us to use it. So, what we have discussed with the financial institution is that, we estimated that it's $10 million, or it'd spend about $275,000 a month for 3 years, and that would burn through the $10 million to all do the 3 projects I described. What we haven't really finalized is exact number for Bay Oaks versus Times Square versus Bayside Park. That's still being developed as the plans move forward. But I think everyone is working under the premise that the overall project cost in terms of this financing is limited to $10 million, because frankly, that's all we're borrowing. So, to your point, Mr. Hughes, if we want to be clear, if, we want to clarify that it's on, Block J, those improvements on Block J or whatever. I don't know if you can read that fine print and whatever. We could try to do that. For your motion.
Well, I'm just raising the point, whatever you feel
I don't know if the
comfortable with,
I don't
and
know if the town attorney feels that it needs further clarification at this point or not.
The existing agreement that the town council have already approved with both the county and the school board do provide for timeframes of when things need to take place. And assuming those conditions precedent are all fulfilled, then the transfer takes place of the properties to the town. And so I think that's the point that the manager is trying to make with the condition, is that we follow through with those agreements that are already in place or being put in place to implement the totality of the transaction, and ultimately then the redevelopment of the property. Because particularly with respect to the agreement with the school board, there's a, and I believe also with the county, if we don't use the property for public purposes within a reasonable period of time, then the agreement gets unwound.
The agreement's already in place.
The agreement is being put in place. We've approved it. It's now going before the school board and for the.
And that's why I'm wondering if he'd be more comfortable with this if it said per agreement that's set by, or some reference to that agreement.
Well, I think, no, I think that the scope of this committee, notwithstanding we welcome and recognize your input, whatever, is just simply, does this action conform with the town's regulations in terms of vacating right away? To the extent that it does, then you would vote yes, and if you don't believe it does, then you vote no. The fact that it's tied to a project and there are other parts of that are really secondary to what I believe is the request before you all today, is just simply, should we or should we not vacate this public right away back to the property owners?
well, I think it's the town and the staff and the council to be commended on putting this together. I'm just anxious, concerned about the wording on. I'm not familiar with a reversion clause in a vacation. Refer to the attorney here. We're in effect vacating something, but with a reversionary contingency.
Because that's within the separate document.
Right.
Has that, because all three parties involved here are governmental entities. So there's the underlying requirement that any action that we take, that Lee County takes, and that the school board takes with regards to this transaction all have to be for a valid public purpose. And if it's, and if for whatever reason, the intent or the reason behind this land swap doesn't actually get effectuated, then there's a reverter provision to, for all parties. That's a safeguard, frankly, that the school board in particular wanted, with regard to the parcels that they're giving to us. And it goes to the point of the manager that we have, we are in fact doing that. That's an extremely important part of this overall transaction is the first step that the council will be taking this evening, and then on the 21st to approve the budget that gives staff the authority to go ahead and acquire the funds to implement these projects. I hope that answered your question.
If this were sort of a cash transaction, we'd all sit at the table and we'd all pass each other a check. But because this is a land transaction, and someone has to go first, so.
I understand.
So we're saying, well, we'll go first, as I think the greater beneficiary of this whole concept. With the understanding that if the other parties, for some reason, as they go through their approval processes, if they don't follow through, if they don't get their board or commission to vote yes, and accept the terms, then we have a way to unwind the deal. Or if any of the parties don't carry through on their commitments made in that document that John alluded to, that our council has already approved, the school board has commitments, the Lee County has commitments. So any of the three parties don't follow through, we go back to ground zero and start all over again.
The conditions of approval only have our obligation and
Because we can't commit to them, they have to commit to us. So we can only commit to them what we will do.
I think it's well within Dan's questioning line to make sure that that this is all on the up and up, and it's all been brought out to light, and it's a step that some people agree on going through or not agree on going through, but it's one that we have to, and it's in here, so we discussed it. And do you have any more questions on
No,
this?
I don't have any problem with doing it in anticipation of the other things happening. I just suggest that when our attorney actually drafts the vacation ordinance, I have to be a little more involved than just saying all projects must be completed. Yeah.
We will, understood.
A condition that when it goes to council, it has more detail on
the contingency,
specifics of projects and
and the
condition
reversion
one.
clause.
That would satisfy parties involved. Do we have any public comment on this? Going forward with a motion on this?
I'll move approval, subject to the condition of approval as discussed. And do we make a finding here that there's public?
That meets the requirement, the criteria for the granting of the vacating the right of way.
Includes the condition. 14.
Clarify which one you're talking about. You're talking about school
We're
street.
doing 74 right now.
74, okay.
We're doing 74 right now.
Make sure you-
Or were you trying to do them both combined? I know Roger was speaking to them both combined. I understand that, but
We
I
need
just
them
wanted to
we
approved
have to
separately.
do
I
them
wanted part of the
separately.
motion, which one?
So we're working on motion, we're working on 74 right now. AC 202-00074. Problem is, they're both named the same thing, just 174, 172.
I think the one is we're referring to it as the school street, and the other one is the road.
24 is school.
Both read the same.
Yeah, they do.
They do. They both read the same in our packet here. That's where the confusion comes
We're
from.
doing 74 right
We're
now?
doing 74 right now, which is
School street.
School Street.
Street.
I'll second it, and make the motion.
You made the motion
Yeah, I'll second it.
with the condition 1.
Correct.
Have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approved 5-0. Now we're going to do 72.
Yes.
Just have to say. Go ahead, Jason.
My presentation was covering both of them, so just
Okay.
So
respectfully.
just to be clear for the record, Roger Ernst, the town manager, this is the vacation dealing with the property adjacent to Lee County's property. Okay? Adjacent to the preserve.
Okay, so 74 was your preserve. We just approved. 72 is going to be the parking lot. All right?
I don't have the agenda, I think it's the other way around.
Oh, we just approved 74.
Sorry.
School Street. The road is the.
Yes. 74 is the aqua area on
Is the parking lot.
parking
Okay.
lot.
Now 72 is the corner lot on the other side of the school. Okay.
Upper right.
All right, now that we got that clear as mud. Go ahead, Jason.
Just the findings is the same as the other one, is that it's the land development code requirements for vacating of the right-of-way and request. Per the staff request and the conditions.
It's the same as the last. Same question. Okay. Public comment? Closing public comment. I hear a motion on BAC 2020072, which is Bay Road and
I'll make that motion that we approve the VAC 20, Forrest Kritzer for the record, VAC 2020072 for approval. As
change
listed.
the requirements for vacating includes condition 1.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your.
I hear a second on that.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 And both of these have been advertised and noticed for the 21st this month, for September 21st for town councils. That meeting is at 5:01, it's not a normal 9 o'clock.
Okay. That closes our public hearings. Double checking. Closes our public hearing and starts our administrative agenda. Again, I'm waiting to work on the historic board when we have a full committee, which should be next month. We will have a full committee after town council reappoints.
Let me ask you a question. The person on this, whomever we decide, 1 or 2 people from the LPA, they'll need to fill out an application to be on. It's like I had to fill out an application for the LPA, renominate. Will they need to fill out an application for?
No,
No.
because the liaison of
appoint them.
this body to the Historic Preservation Board is already in the.
Okay, so,
in the
yeah,
code.
I would like to, when we reorganize and add a member next month, I think this should be one of the
The October agenda, let's make sure that we have time set aside for the Historic Preservation Board. Looking at our agenda, please set some time aside for the Historic Preservation Board, because we are not doing this thing justice. Exactly with the red roof cottage.
Yeah,
We need to get
no
this thing
idea.
fired back up, but we've not had a full committee in 8 months.
And just for the record, I mean, technically it's the LPA having that discussion and assignments and all that. Well, obviously that'll be on the agenda, specifically how you want to do that and who you want to assign to.
I'd like to make a motion to table a Historic Preservation Board today for next, much larger discussion next month.
second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aaron? We're going to pass, agenda change past 5-0, so we're going to, again,
It's tabled to the next meeting.
for a much larger discussion, so please be ready for that. And I'm going to have out here who has sat as the chair, I've sat as the chair, have some discussion for all members of be looking for at least a volunteer, so if you don't, then I will appoint someone to this Historic Preservation Board. It is fun, it's really cool. It's a board to sit on for a while, because you then do get to work with those in the community who are working to preserve the historic history of our island, so I want to make it sound like we are not interested. Next piece is the LPA member items, and I typically go around the room, but I'm going to go first today because I've got a question. And this is, I can see your face over there. The M&P session that happened the other day, and that the short-term rentals are coming to see us. Have to come through this board. We called a special session for the Lani Kai for a age. It had impact on a single business and tourist and seasonal people. Short-term rental thing, which may not be feeling it, but I do know out in the community that this is extremely important to them. Can we call, or is it appropriate to call a special session to get that taken care of and move it forward? This has a larger impact on the overall residents and homeowners of this island, and is important to our tourism too as well. I'd like to see if we couldn't call a special session for that.
I see no reason why we can't. If that's the consensus of the LPA. I was just actually sending a related email to someone here, including staff, about Mr. Green and I are sitting down and drafting a proposed ordinance consistent with the direction that was given to staff at the M&P meeting for you all to consider. So as soon as we have that document ready, which should be shortly, okay. We'll then, Mr. Green will coordinate with you all the availability for a special call meeting.
Also, the caveat to all that, and I don't remember the dates off the top of my head in the statute, but when you're changing uses in zoning districts, there's a different notification criteria than our standard.
Are we changing usages? It's
We're
the
not
same
changing,
usage.
we're some may say clarifying.
Yes.
And
I would
some
say
may
clarifying.
use other words. Currently, the language, and I'm paraphrasing, is a 7-day minimum. And what we experience at the staff level from an enforcement level, complaints primarily are rentals, multiple rentals in 1 week. So that one way or another, the 7-day minimum isn't being complied with. The council has directed staff, again I'm paraphrasing from the discussion M&P, draft something that says 7 days or less, more than once a week.
I think that's what was suggested a couple of different ways and stuff. When that came up, I will say my phone rang, and I did get quite a few calls about it. I make no guarantees, no promises, no nothing. I want to make sure that's absolutely clear. But other than that, we will bring it out into the open and discuss it. So that's why I'm calling for this, because I do know that some of those phone calls are people who are doing their best to save their homes and stuff of that sort, by no fault of their own, other than COVID-19 has limited their ability to work in this time. So I bring it out in the open, and that's what I'm doing.
And my only point was just as long as it doesn't cross that threshold, then we have more flexibility with the time.
Okay. So, if everybody's in agreement here, I'd like to see, by nodding heads, that are willing to come in and do a special session to just hear, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be, once we advertise it and we're going to have some people here, that this isn't going to be a 10-minute meeting. We come in for special session for such a hot topic and hot button on this island. All right, so we are waiting on you to finish up the language and you to tell us when we're going to meet.
Correct.
That's all I have on my side, so I will start going around the room here.
I'm good, thank you.
I'm good, thank you.
Not good. I don't have anything.
You've been good for a long, long time, Dan. You've been good for a long, long time.
And with an honest answer.
There you go. And I already did my member item. One other thing is town council meeting coming up 2 weeks. You have anything that's hearing on that from this?
Is there one tonight?
The vacates.
Kates will all be there?
There's one tonight. It's the first budget hearing.
Okay, so we don't, there's not.
Tonight's the first budget hearing, we don't have anything on that, and the second budget hearing, we have the vacates.
We had that one that was continued to October.
I want to give everybody an update on one that was supposed, I thought we had one that was supposed to be here this month.
The one that
You had
was
a-
continued
you had a
October is the one on Williams Drive.
There's one continued October, and there's one continued indefinitely until
Yeah.
some other issues were resolved that have not been done yet, but in progress.
So on 2 weeks from now is just the vacates. Seeing anything else from our agenda?
That's what I recall, yes.
Forward.
Do we have one?
The,
Oh, I'm sorry, the first reading of the text amendment that you listened to today
today.
will be on the 21st. It'll be the first reading to set the second.
Our new members, we like to have somebody in the audience. We'd like to have somebody in case they have any questions. Anybody like to volunteer to be at the 21st? If they have any questions of
It's on a
us,
Tuesday, isn't it?
Monday. The first and third Monday of the month,
Normally.
except for this week. Today. I think if no one is, I can be there.
Is at 5:01.
What?
5:01.
Oh, I could,
Would you like to do it?
if it's at 5:01, I can do it.
I don't believe there's been anything else scheduled in the morning before that. It's the
Monday
budget.
of the 21st.
My first,
Glad to
501
do
Town
it.
Council. You may or may not be asked any questions, but we do like to have somebody there just in case. So we got that one taken care of. Is there another one between now and then?
Your next meeting is scheduled the October 13th.
October 9th.
All right. Next is the LPA attorney items. Everything? Jason, you're next up on the agenda.
I'm good.
Okay,
Thank you for your patience with today.
no problem. It happens. Any items for next month's agenda? Anything that you know coming on our agenda?
What you mentioned, the conversation about the historic board, also it's, you'll have members by then, or members. And you'll have to, it's the, what hat you're going to wear, your vice chair conversation will be at your meeting.
Okay,
Is it for sure going to be the 13th?
It is right now the normal time unless
Okay.
request for something else.
How many, we're missing 2
Oh,
members
we
now?
forgot. Jane had,
well, Jane had an excused absence,
Okay.
and so we're only missing one, Tim. I just
Yeah.
think that between the absences, the cancellation of our meeting and everything, that it just, and his
Understand.
term starts in October, didn't
I
make
just didn't
sense.
know about Jane.
And we're going to request, once we get organized, we're going to request a meeting with,
As soon as we get a board set and we're set, we discussed a potential agenda or potential items to discuss with town council, which would be, something's coming up. In last year, we did LDC. This year is comp plan, areas of concerns that you would like to see addressed in the comp plan. And we will all get on the same page with town council and can go to the consultant or whatever, as they look
At
through our
your
stuff.
organizational meeting, that when we have the new full board, do you all want to schedule, 45 minutes, an hour, particularly for the new board members, some action on the public records law and the sunshine law?
Always a good one.
Okay, we'll make that happen.
Especially if we do not, I mean, we definitely have one space that will be a new member. We don't,
I'm new to the
I know.
whole process, all right.
I
So
know
we'll
that
we'll schedule that
we'll
as
have to
well.
re-up, yeah. Okay. Sounds like,
In the meantime, the board members, if there are any questions regarding any of those issues, please don't hesitate to reach out to me before that training. And there's any, particularly with regards to any questions of conflict of interest or anything of that nature, that we'll also cover during the course of that meeting.
I think that that's, as time has gone on, we've run into some parts and pieces of that question and interest stuff. Okay. There's no one here for public comment. With that, open and closing public comment, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. 5-0. We are out of here. 11:06. A break and a late start.
Not bad.
It did my 2 hours.